Hi everyone, Lexi here. When you hear the term farming RPG, you probably picture an idyllic life sim, full of farming, crafting, relationship building, and maybe a bit of light combat. But along with those cozy elements come a lot of old school conventions the genre just can't seem to shake. Year after year, many of these games stick to the same blueprint, not out of necessity, but out of habit, preserving the status quo more than pushing things forward. So when a game like Harvestella comes along and dares to challenge those norms, it sends a ripple through the genre. And Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma feels like it's riding that wave, raising an important question. Does Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma mark the evolution the series has needed? Or is it simply reworking the old formula with a new coat of paint? Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma is an action RPG with life sim and farming elements, developed by Marvelous and published by Xseed, who provided me with this Switch game code. The game is slated to come out on June 5th for Switch platforms and PC. You play the role of an Earth Dancer, who is tasked with healing the world of Azuma after it suffered from a world-rending disaster known as the Celestial Collapse. Azuma is a world whose continents have been scattered across sky and sea, as villages drift through clouds and waves, as nature teeters on the brink of ruin. You'll save this world by rebuilding settlements, forge strong bonds with your allies, and take down monstrous enemies. Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma makes one of the strongest first impressions I've ever had in a farming RPG. While a few early cutscenes help set the stage for the world you're stepping into, the game wastes no time before letting you actually do things. As you can probably imagine, this comes at the expense of fully understanding the world right away. But what's great about Guardians of Azuma is that it has the confidence to pull you into its world through gameplay and presentation, not just exposition. And that confidence shows in how it streamlines so many of its core systems, changes that feel long overdue for the series. From the moment you step into the world, tutorials are seamlessly woven into the main story, helping you learn the fundamentals without pulling you out of the experience. And while there are quite a few, especially early on, the pacing is handled surprisingly well. By spacing them out between gameplay and story beats, the game maintains a strong narrative rhythm that keeps things moving forward without overwhelming you. One of my favorite streamlined features has to be how gathering tools are handled. You no longer need to fumble around switching between different tools, something that feels directly inspired by the quality of life improvements from the Atelier Rises series. With just a press of the A button, you can revitalize a withered tree. And by holding the same button, you'll gather lumber or whatever materials that tree provides. Unlike most farming RPGs though, the tree doesn't fall after harvesting. Instead, the tree remains, ready for you to collect more the following day. This one change has a ripple effect across several mechanics. Because trees, mining nodes, and other resources like it stay in the world after gathering, any uncollected resources are marked on both the minimap and main map. This is a fantastic quality of life addition, especially for meticulous gatherers who want to keep track of what's still out there. That said, there are still some items you'll need to switch between using a quick button press or an equipment wheel. But even then, those are mostly tied to combat. For example, you can choose between a melee weapon or ranged weapon for your basic attacks. Ranged weapons can be aimed, of course, but both types allow for simple combos by repeatedly pressing the Y button. Meanwhile, the X button serves as your secondary action slot, letting you equip a variety of tools, from a fire sword you'll stumble upon later, to a healing prayer that can save you in a pinch. But perhaps the biggest streamlined feature that I love is Guardians of Azuma's building mode. Pressing ZR to bring out your Terratiller in a buildable zone instantly activates building mode, which completely stops the flow of time. That's huge! It means you're free to carefully lay out structures, organize your fields, and fine-tune your farm without feeling rushed or penalized for wanting to make something cool. What's more is that you can click the right stick to switch to an overhead view, giving you a full look at the buildable area and its grid, which is perfect for fine-tuning your placements. It's a small but powerful change that makes Guardians of Azuma feel more welcoming, and more importantly, it actively encourages player creativity in a way few farming RPGs do. It also has an unexpected side effect. I found myself wanting to gather more while exploring, so I can spend more time customizing and expanding my settlement exactly how I envisioned it. And it helps that exploration in Guardians of Azuma is genuinely fantastic. While the areas aren't sprawling, they're filled with just enough hidden paths and tucked away corners to make you want to explore every inch. The jump button adds a welcome sense of verticality, letting you reach spots that would otherwise be just out of reach. What's even cooler is that some parts of exploration rely on your combat skills, like using ranged weapons to trigger hidden switches, or wielding a flaming sword to burn away corrupted barriers. And as I mentioned earlier, any resources you haven't gathered yet show up on both the minimap and main map, making the whole experience of exploring and collecting feel rewarding and intentional. That said, one of the biggest barriers to enjoyment in farming RPGs is stamina. In most games, it limits how much you can accomplish in a day. Whether you're tilling soil, gathering resources, or even swinging a sword, every action drains that precious meter. In Guardians of Azuma, most actions no longer drain rune points, the game's equivalent of stamina, which reflects a meaningful shift in how the series approaches day-to-day gameplay. Instead of punishing players for being active, it encourages experimentation and lets you focus on what you want to do, not what you have the stamina for. In fact, just like in building mode, fast travel doesn't advance time either, which is a huge relief, especially since you'll be using this whenever you want to quickly travel between each town. If you're playing on the Switch, the only real trade-off is the loading screen, but even that is totally reasonable, and doesn't disrupt the pace of the gameplay. All that said, it really feels like Marvelous took a long hard look at the long-standing conventions of farming RPGs, as well as taking lessons from more modern titles, and asked some important questions about what really makes these games fun. Every streamlined system in Guardians of Azuma reflects that effort, from making settlement building more intuitive to eliminating the tedious chore of constantly switching tools and weapons. Back in the day, forgetting to bring the right tool could ruin your entire in-game day, with stamina draining and time ticking away as you trudged back home. But in Guardians of Azuma, those frustrations are gone. And you don't have to worry about forgetting gear or running out of inventory space, as your supply bag is bottomless, letting you carry everything you need without punishment. And if you do happen to leave something behind, you're not out of luck, as cooking stations scattered throughout the world let you access your home storage remotely, making it easy to grab or stash items on the fly. Before diving deeper into the gameplay, specifically its combat and progression systems, I do want to point out a few things that are worth knowing and some that could use some improvement. To start, while voice acting is prominent early on, it becomes noticeably less frequent as the game goes on. Major story moments and relationship rank-ups are fully voiced, which helps anchor the emotional beats. But most tutorials, despite being integrated into the narrative, aren't voiced. Personally, I don't mind that, but it's worth noting. That said, the voice work that is present is genuinely well done. It adds a lot to the game's atmosphere and helps bring the world to life. And yes, Guardians of Azuma includes both English and Japanese voice tracks, giving players a welcome choice in how they experience the story. One issue Guardians of Azuma shares with some other games is how it handles auto-advancing dialogue in scenes without voice acting. If the text is particularly wordy, it flies by too quickly, making it easy to miss important details unless you're fully locked in and reading every line the moment it appears. As for performance on the Switch, Guardians of Azuma runs noticeably better than Rune Factory 5. That's largely thanks to its simplified art style and cleaner geometry, which helped the game load faster and run more smoothly overall. That said, you'll still encounter the occasional frame rate drop, usually when there's a lot happening on screen, but these moments were rare and never took away from my overall enjoyment. And despite the minor hiccups, the experience felt consistently satisfying from start to finish. This system shines when you're out fighting the many enemies scattered across the game's expansive fields. Thanks to the party-based gameplay and exciting boss battles, combat feels far more engaging than you might expect from a farming RPG, bringing a welcome dose of energy to what could have been a simple or repetitive system. You'll earn experience points based on activities you engaged in, with an additional pool awarded at the end of each day, which reflects everything you've done. These points serve as currency to unlock stat boosts and abilities across multiple skill trees, each tied to a specific type of activity. It's a smart progression system that constantly rewards your playstyle, giving you cool new abilities to experiment with, and a steady sense of growth that keeps you coming back. When it comes to the story, it's simple and easy to follow, and honestly, I love that. Games like this often swing too far in either direction, either over-explaining the world and your role in it, or leaving you to figure everything out on your own. But Guardians of Azuma strikes a near-perfect balance, making the process of learning new mechanics and actually playing the game feel smooth, fun, and genuinely satisfying. There's also a fun sense of humor baked into the writing. It's lighthearted and often never too self-serious, and that goes a long way toward making the world feel alive and worth exploring. All of this is anchored by a cast of wonderful characters that make the 40-plus hour journey absolutely worth taking. And yes, if you're wondering, you can romance any of the 16 eligible characters, 8 male and 8 female, regardless of your chosen gender, continuing the inclusive precedent set by Rune Factory 5. Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma is the kind of game that reminds you how refreshing a genre can feel when developers take real risks. Instead of clinging to outdated systems or relying on nostalgia alone, it refines the formula in ways that matter, streamlining what used to be cumbersome, and giving you more room to explore, experiment, and just enjoy the experience. Whether it's the fluid combat, the satisfying building mechanics, the smart quality of life changes, or the inclusive relationship options, there's a genuine sense of care in every part of this game. It's energetic, rewarding, and full of smart ideas that push the series and the genre forward. If you've ever found comfort, joy, or escape in a farming RPG, or even just wished you could, Guardians of Azuma might be the one that finally clicks. And it's easily one of the most unexpectedly wonderful games I've played this year. Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma launches June 5th on Switch platforms and PC. Don't miss it.